So, wait, the year that you went, Texas lost by double digits. Is that what you are conveying to me?
Yeah, definitely big double digits. Yes.
Oh man, what game was that?
Honestly, it was probably, I'd say either 2000. I think it was the 2011 game. They got blown out.
Okay, I'm not sure yet if we are. I'm not sure if we're actually streaming right now. Oh, wait. I think it's real. Oh, come on. It says that we're live. Okay, we're live. Okay, sorry about that, Dave. We're good. We're just trying to iron out things here on Rover. You know what I mean?
There you go.
All right, so we are here. Patrick is in the house. We are officially live. What game was that? What Red River shootout game did you go to? And by the way, you know now it's politically incorrect because if you say shootout, that means that people will think guns and violence now. You can't say that. You can't say the words cocktail and shootout.
Got to stay politically correct. You can call it the Red River rivalry.
It's the Red River showdown.
Showdown, whatever you want to call it. You know, the Washington NFL football team. You don't want to offend any other people. You know.
Right.
I don't want. I'm not here to offend anybody.
No, you're not. You better not, or else you're off of my show if you're bad for business.
Yeah. You've never offended anybody ever. So
I've never. I am perfect. I'm an angel. I would never say anything remotely controversial, remotely to offend anybody. I mean, if I offend somebody, you know, and I don't know, maybe it's easy to offend people. So
there you go.
I guess we're one step away from talking China and talking NBA, but whoops. Our viewers have been knocked out. But anyway, let's, Dave, what I was going to get to is I think we have a great slate of football to discuss. My buddy Patrick says to cancel Pat Shurmer. And I made a video last night, and I've been making videos on this topic. I think that Pat Shurmer's days in New York are numbered, and I don't think that this guy's an elite level head coach.
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I don't think his days as a head coach are numbered to this year, unfortunately. That's not me disagreeing with the take of, you know, saying he's not a head coach. I would agree with everything. Push comes to shove, he will not be fired this year. I just don't think ownership will go that route. You have a rookie quarterback. They drafted him. The thing the Mara family has always been big on is consistency, and that kind of goes through Eli with the starting quarterback through time. Gettleman hired this guy. They believe in Shurmer to develop this guy. I think the way the ownership will view it, maybe not us as fans, will view this as the worst thing that they can do is get rid of their head coach and have him go through a second system in a second year and just you read about how all these quarterbacks always go through 7 coordinators in 5 years, 6 years, you know?
Right.
And I just don't see it changing, at least this year. Has nothing to do with what you think of him as a coach. I think he will be there. I think the rookie quarterback almost ensures that he will be there.
No, I understand that, and for Shurmer, it depends on how Daniel Jones does, but there's so many excuses, and there's just a lot better coaches out there, and he has a 300 career winning percentage, and he was with the Cleveland Browns, but he's an older coach. I mean, his schemes, you know, how would you classify Pat Shurmer's offensive scheme? I mean, what does he bring to the table as an offensive guy?
I don't know. I can't give you any of these answers to support keeping Pat Shurmer. My belief is not what I want. It's just my belief is he will be there. You know, he has a semi-track record, and I'm going to give it like the most semi of developing quarterbacks in Case Keenum. And that's like the most semi-track record I could ever find with him. But, you know.
Right.
There's if they don't look totally terrible, and last night they did not look totally terrible. They didn't look good, but they didn't, get blown out the water like everyone predicted, If they don't look terrible while doing this, he's going to be here next year. The only way he's not here is if they do go like a 2-14, something like that, where they just don't win another game. And I see this team, they're better than the Redskins. They'll probably beat them. And especially at that point, I think Dwayne Haskins will be forced into the fire. And the second that happens for the Redskins,
I want to talk about the rest of the schedule and let's kind of go and mark down the rest of the schedule as my sister is entering the house. I'm not sure how many people are here. I'm doing a live podcast. You guys want to be on it? See, I actually have a family, and my sister has friends. I don't really have friends. This is going to get crazy, Dave. I'm sorry. It's a hurricane of my sister's friends. You still have you survived?
Okay. I survived.
Sometimes life hits you, kids. Raising kids. Anyway, Dave, you still with me, buddy?
I'm here.
Yeah, why not just hang around? All right, so we got the Cardinals playing the Giants. Kyler Murray. That game is going to be a really interesting game for Pat Shurmer because there's no real excuse to lose to Cliff Kingsbury. It's a first-year coach, a very bad defense, an offensive line that is atrocious, so the defense should be able to hang in there. That's a great measuring stick game for Pat Shurmer, is it not?
I mean, I would say yes. I mean, I think that the Giants, unless like the Cardinals like this week show something that, they haven't shown all year. And I take that win against the Bengals with the biggest grain of salt in the world for the Cardinals, because other than that, they've looked absolutely terrible, and the Bengals are terrible. I think that the Giants have shown enough that they can win these type of games, where they have a little bit more talent than the Cardinals, The two bad defenses, the Giants' defense is better. Two bad offenses, the Giants' offense is better. The Saquon should be back for that game. So, I think they'll win that game. I mean, I won't put my foot down and say they'll definitely win that game, but I think they can, It's just,
Yeah.
It'll be what it'll be.
I don't know if you can hear, this order. But anyway, sorry, we're talking about the New York Giants. It's Rover Sports, the show. And do you think Kyler's going to win that game? Sorry, do you think Kyler's going to win that? Because I think the Giants can lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, anyone could lose the game. I think the Giants win that game. I think they'll.
So you think the Giants are stuck in purgatory, though, because it could be a 5-11 type of season. If the New York Giants, I think it's going to be 5-11. Daniel Jones is going to stay. And here's the point that I'm going to make to you, Dave, is that the New York Giants, having Daniel Jones is not the worst thing in the world because there's only about 5 quarterbacks or 7 quarterbacks that are real game changers. And the rest of the guys are in mediocrity. The rest of the guys are Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins level quarterbacks. And Daniel Jones absolutely looks like he can be an NFL quarterback. He looks like he has the capability to fit in with those mediocre guys.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Daniel Jones is like you watched him last night through 3 picks, but I'm not even worried about last night. I mean, there's just a reason, the fact that they had no talent out there whatsoever. His skill position players are awful. I mean, Golden Tate, he made that one good throw to Tate, had a touchdown. It's just a tough night to judge him by yesterday.
There's no separation anybody was getting, and Evan Ingram was out. Yeah, he had no chance last night.
Honestly, Spencer, let's go on to the next topic because I don't see much of talking about the Giants right now.
You're bored. You're bored.
I mean, the Giants are not what the people want to hear about. I mean,
yeah, they're just a boring, depressing. I mean, if you want to get depressed, then you can listen to us talk about Giants football. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to I'm going to talk about a topic that I think is an interesting topic, and that is the Detroit Lions. You have Matthew Stafford and Matt Stafford as a quarterback, Dave. This is a huge game for him going to Lambeau Field because can the Detroit Lions, can they finally get over that hump with Matt Patricia, and will Matthew Stafford have a chance to win the NFC North? And I think that the NFC North either goes for Green Bay or Detroit, and this is the classic game where I think Detroit's defense is going to play well up in Green Bay, but I'm not sure Stafford will have what it takes to win this game because he's never won games like this all year. The Lions had a very good start to the season. Do you think that the Lions have a chance in Green Bay? And do you think that this Lions team is for real? I mean, what do you think about this Lions team this season under Matt Patricia in year 2?
I mean, the thing about the Lions, I think this is a little bit of fool's gold with the Lions, just a little bit right now. I think that they're a good team. They're a potential wild card team. And, they do a bunch of things decently well, but, they didn't beat the Cardinals, I don't know.
They beat Philly and they took Kansas City to the wire.
You take that, but that's at home though. Still, these are games, you beat Philly when Philly was. But let's talk about that Philly game. Philly was as banged up as the Giants were last night in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't remember a lot of this stuff is relative to when you play these teams. It's all about timing in the NFL. They play Philly at the best time that they could possibly play them at. Let's not forget that. Matt Patricia, he's been better. This team is better. I don't think that when they start playing the big boys I think the Bears will finish with a better record than them. I think that the Packers will finish with a better record than them. I think they'll end up in that third place, battling out with the Vikings. I think they may be just a year away with Patricia's system. They're taking a step in the major right direction. The defense has become more physical. I just don't see them as better than the Bears, in my opinion, and they're definitely not of the Packers level. Maybe when we do this show on Monday, you'll say, Dave, I told you so, and these Lions went into Lambeau Field and they won. I don't see it right now.
I think the Lions are a very talented team. I think Patricia is doing a really good job. You see definite improvement with Matt Patricia because, Matt Patricia, and I got to tell my mom to get out for a second. Hey, Mom, can you get out, please? I'm trying to do a pot. This is the only place I can do a pot. All right, so the way that I view the Lions is that I don't really think Stafford. This is one of Stafford's best opportunities to win the division, to get in the playoffs. I think Patricia and this team is pretty interesting this year. Their defense is good. Patricia definitely has a higher upside than Pat Shurmer, but I'm going to go with the Packers here in Lambeau, and I'll agree with you. I just don't know if Stafford is that guy that's going to take the team over the top. And you know what? Matt Stafford is kind of like Jacob Eason and Justin Herbert. Would you agree with that? He's a big-armed quarterback. He's talented, but he just can't win games that you need him to win.
I'm not going to compare Stafford to any of these guys right now, but yeah, I compare Stafford more to NFL guys than college guys that haven't done anything in the NFL. So at this point in his career, but Stafford, yeah, I think a lot of the rap with Stafford when we say guy who can't win the big game, it's like he's still once again a situation within the organization. I agree with that to an extent, but when he really had that team that is supposed to have won, show me that team. It's kind of like the Carmelo Anthony arguments when people say, well, the guy never won anything. Show me the team that was really supposed to have won anything, So that's kind of where I go with Stafford. He just kind of he's the definition of a quarterback that's been stuck in purgatory with his teams. And it might be because he gets overpaid as a quarterback, too.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about Stafford is that he has a huge arm, and that even he doesn't. It just feels like he doesn't show a lot of heart. Like even when he goes to Seattle in the playoffs, you never really trust Stafford. And some quarterbacks can elevate a franchise. You look at Big Ben, you look at Russell Wilson, Josh Allen. They all have heart. They all come back late in games. They fire up their teammates. And Matt Stafford seems content losing. He just does. He's quiet on the sidelines. He doesn't show that he really doesn't show that outward passion that you look for on a week out and week in basis. And that's kind of been my problem with Stafford, is that he's so talented. He could be one of the best quarterbacks. He has the best arm strength like in the NFL, and he just can never seem to bring it week in and week out. He's very inconsistent to me.
Great question for you, though, okay?
He can't elevate. He can't elevate. He's just all right. He's just average, and that's why he's not a Hall of Famer. He has Hall of Fame talent, but sorry, go ahead.
Great question. When have the Lions been ever better than, take away just the other 21 positions on the field, when have they ever been better than the Seahawks and the Steelers? Because they're significantly worse on the other 21. And I think Big Ben and Russell Wilson are definitely better than Matt Stafford, so I'm not arguing this point with you. But here's the point I make with you, is that you can't argue this one, is that the other 21 players on the team, on the positions, have always been better for those two teams. The Lions have never been a good team. I think it also goes to the fact that for those most of the years of Stafford's career was to come down to your second highest paid player other than quarterback can't be the receiver. It's always been a flawed team, just built in flawed ways.
No, that's a good point.
It's necessarily been his fault. I think he takes a bad rap. I'm not a Stafford fan per se, but I'm not going to sit here and just compile on a guy when I do really believe that he's kind of in that situation where I agree with the fact that he doesn't fire anyone up. I agree with a lot of these things. I think that Big Ben and Russell Wilson are better quarterbacks than him. But I can't sit here and just say he hasn't elevated a team, because I don't know that there's been a team to elevate. Maybe he has elevated teams, and he's gotten what should be a 4-win team into 8 wins. Maybe he's gotten a 5-win team into that wild card. Maybe that's the way to look at it, And there's just a cap on what these teams can actually do. I think right now with Patricia, you have the right coach and they're taking the right steps. I think it's the first time in his career that he's had a real chance of doing.
No, it is exciting, and I forget the other times. It might have been with Caldwell, and when they were in the playoffs, it was like Adam Gase in that Miami year. So, I mean, you make very good arguments. Like, he hasn't had unbelievable wide receivers around him. I mean, Golden Tate was in Detroit for a while. I'm trying to figure out what other receivers that they had, like Burleson maybe. I don't know. It just was a hodgepodge of guys like you're talking about. So he definitely is not elevating a team, but now finally with Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, there is a direction. I want to give a shout out here to Kid Blue. He does a really good show with The Entertainer. He does great picks on there, but his channel is all Giants. It's a great, great channel. He's one of the hardest workers in YouTube, so I'm really glad to associate with him, and I'm really happy that he's on this stream having a really good weekend and having some really good questions on here. And a lot of people want us to preview this upcoming NFL slate. It's a hectic Friday, Dave. I don't know if you could hear all the bull crap going on around the house.
You got a lot going on over there. Let's focus in. Let's do it.
I'm going to focus in, and I'm going to block out the outside noise, because to give a little inside baseball, I got this new microphone. My sister's having this huge party tonight. She doesn't want me in the basement because she wants all of her little friends to have cheese curls and soda and all this other bullshit. You know what I mean? And I'm getting peppered upstairs with all this new equipment, and
here's what it is.
But, Dave, we're going to get these picks in, man.
Let's preview the NFL slate here.
We're gonna rise above all this BS here, and I'm gonna keep my composure, keep my cool with all of this adversity. Do you want to do college or do you want to do NFL?
Whatever you want to start with.
Let's do NFL. We mostly have a lot of NFL viewers. We are still trying to sprinkle in the college, so college will be at the end if you guys want to get those treats. We start out with a London game, Panthers at Buccaneers. I think the Panthers win. I think Kyle Allen's playing great. I want the decision for the Panthers ownership to be as difficult as possible with Cam Newton, who's been very inaccurate. He's actually 0-8 over his last 8 starts, so I want Kyle Allen to keep this rolling, and the Buccaneers lost an emotional game at New Orleans. I think going to London, this Panthers team has pep in its step. The Panthers have a bye week after this week. I just love Carolina in this spot. What say you?
One, I can't say I love anyone in a London game ever because London is just a different animal. You know, it's one of those, yeah, you can say you're right, but London, you can't predict it. You know, I was talking to a friend very close to ownership with the Panthers today, and I was listening to about how much of media distraction it is. They can barely practice. They don't get their practice time. They're doing camps. They're doing clinics. They're, you know, everything. There's so much community outreach right now. So I'm sure that
they're like missionaries for the NFL.
Yeah, it's not your normal week, you know. Yeah, that will be for sure. Obviously, it goes much more than just saying you're playing a game in London. They're doing NFL, like kind of like what you see with the NBA cares. You know, they're doing the same stuff with the NFL. You know, and on Friday of a game week, you know, normally they're not running football camps in Carolina. Well, they're doing that right now. They did that today in London. So I really have a hard time predicting this game because everything you've ever heard, these London games are hard to predict. I'm going to say the Buccaneers reluctantly, maybe just to be contrarian to you. They went on the road. They beat Carolina with a Cam Newton that could barely walk. I think that this Bucs team is decent. It's very Jekyll and Hyde. If they can at all stop, you know, McCaffrey, I'd love to see what Kyle Allen has to do on a game where, you know, he's the one who really needs to make the throws. You know, he had a great game against the Cardinals. My opinion is the last 2 weeks they have won in spite of Kyle Allen. He's fumbling the ball like crazy. He makes no throws except for the ones behind the line of scrimmage, except for screen passes to DJ Moore, basically, or to what's his name, McCaffrey. McCaffrey has carried them on the ground. If McCaffrey is carrying them on the ground,
he is, and he's an MVP type of guy, Christian McCaffrey this year.
He is the best running back in the NFL today. There is no doubt about it. But if they are able to bottle him up a little bit, I will be interested to see if Kyle Allen has it in him to really push this ball downfield and, you know, consistently make these throws because he really just hasn't shown too much the last 2 games, other than that McCaffrey has just carried this team on his back. You know, that being said, I think it's a total toss-up, and I'm really not being held to this pick.
Yeah. Let's go. I'll let you tee up this game. This is definitely a watchable game if you're at a sports bar. It's the New Orleans Saints. They're headed down to Jacksonville. It's Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew. This is going to be a fun matchup. What do you think about this game down in North Florida, Jacksonville?
I think that this is the ultimate trap game for bettors. You know, you see that, you know, the Saints are +2. You know, you can give them all the credit in the world. This could be a tough spot for the Saints. They're not at home. A lot of the great football you've seen of them in these last 2 weeks is attributed to the home crowd. Teddy Bridgewater will be decent. I think Minshew, you know, will be able to move the ball just enough. You know, Jacksonville has been good. Minshew's been great. I'm going to say Jaguars close in a tight game at the end.
Are you comfortable, though? Is this one of your pick? Would you pick this game, though, if you had to pick it?
We have to. We'll get into our spread picks later.
Because Bridgewater Bridgewater did go on the road in Seattle, and he did play decently well. And that Jaguars defense on the ground, it surrendered some huge holes on the ground. What I think is pretty comical, too, is that this Jalen Ramsey situation could really be affecting Doug Marrone and the morale of this Jaguars team, because they're a very inconsistent team. Their defense is not airtight like it has been the last few years under Todd Wash. So maybe Kamara can gash this Jacksonville defense a little bit.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. Just one of my hunches is that, one thing is it's tough to win on the road in the NFL. If Bridgewater were to drop a game, this is kind of where I see it happening. It's kind of, they've had that division win, big win against the Cowboys, great win against Seattle, and maybe there's a little bit of letdown for the Saints. Maybe that's what I'm just counting on, maybe more of a letdown than, things that maybe you can't see on paper. I'm just kind of going to go with that trend of home teams are good in the NFL. And that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Great question by Clocks. We are getting some really good questions here on the podcast. We already talked about the New York Giants a lot. He asked me a very poignant question about Daniel Jones. I might have to address Daniel Jones and make a video on that whole topic, maybe do a film review some other time, but I will certainly go back and talk Clocks about that question. Let's go to a game in Minnesota, though. We got Eagles and Vikings, and this is going to be a game for Kirk Cousins that's really going to define his season, I think, because the Eagles secondary is very banged up. They don't have that guy from LSU, Jalen Mills. Ronald Darby is still out, so their defense is gettable in the back end. The thing I worry about the most is that if you put any pressure on Kirk Cousins, and the Eagles' defensive line of Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox has been playing well, if you put any pressure on Kirk Cousins, he will shrivel up and fail. And I'm leaning towards the Eagles actually going into Minnesota and winning this game. But this is such a great test for Kirk Cousins to see if Adam Thielen and Diggs, what they do versus an actual good team as opposed to just the Giants.
Yeah, this is a tough spot, both teams. The Eagles are a really good team. I don't know. I see this as a toss up. Me personally, there's something that tells me if Kirk Cousins is ever going to put his foot down and if he's ever going to make with the Vikings, they're going to have to win this week. If that makes sense, it's got to happen right here, right now, because he's going to lose Diggs, he's going to lose Thielen. The secondary is banged up. Dalvin Cook has been on an absolute other level. That being said, I think the Eagles do come out and win this game. Wentz has been great. They established a running game last week with, they've established a running game with Jordan Howard. They're doing a little bit better. I think that front seven is really going to be the difference maker. I don't know that Dalvin Cook is going to be able to run through the front seven kind of like he did against the Giants. Cousins does disappear in these big games. I'm just going to have to go with history and say that the Eagles will get this done.
Yeah, and that Kirk will fail, but we're both rooting for the Vikings big time. So, Dave, I think it's time for you to give the 5 NFL picks. Let's hear 5 picks against the spread for this week, and then I'll give my 5, and then we'll move on to some college football.
5 picks against the spread. Let me pull up the actual spreads here.
Do you want me to go first?
No, you don't have to. Let me pull up the spread, and I'll give you my picks.
Alrighty, awesome, guys. And I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. We do it twice a week. It's me and Davey Horns. During the weekend, we always give our picks on Friday afternoon or Saturday very early in the morning, college and the NFL. So we're going to Bovada right now. We're going to be looking up the pick total for this game this week. So yes, go ahead, Dave.
All right, so here are the spreads I've got. First game I am going to take. We will 1 p.m., probably the game of the week everyone has been talking about maybe. I'm going to take the Chiefs minus the 4. I think that they will bounce back. Tyreek Hill is supposedly going to come back and play this week.
Tyreek, wow.
Yet, but supposedly I'm reading that it's like 70-30 that he could come back. This team has been a great home team. Last week they didn't have their best game. I'm just going to say Mahomes minus 4. I know that the Texans have been good. I think the Texans are a little bit of fool's gold at times. I think, the defense is weak at best. I think the Chiefs have a better defense than the Texans. I think the Chiefs' offense is better. Minus 4, I'm going to take the Chiefs. Let's go. Next game. Next game I'm going to go with I'm going.
You still there? You're running out of gas here after one?
No, because I'm trying to keep it. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns plus the 2 points. They need this game. I'm not a Browns fan. I think there's so much wrong with the Browns. The Seahawks do not travel great. If you remember in week 2, the Seahawks, they beat the Steelers, but they needed Big Ben to come out,
Right.
Mason Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
I see this as a tough spot for the what's it called, the Seahawks, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think there's just a lot to be lost here. I think it's coming from across the nation.
But they do have 11 days to prepare. Now, we need Seattle's defense to play really well if they're going to beat Cleveland, because Cleveland does have a lot of talent. And even though the Seahawks beat the Rams and they're 4-1, you pointed out well that they could have lost that game to Mason Rudolph. And then if Greg Zuerlein hits that field goal, we're looking at a totally different Seattle situation.
I'm a big I like Pete Carroll. I'm a Giants fan, but I'm a respecter of what he does. Call it a fan, whatever. I just don't think that this team is quite the 4-1 record as we're kind of pointing out right now.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I think also a lot of motivation on the Browns, and it's kind of one of those things in professional sports. You're never as good as you look, and you're never as bad as you look. They looked at on Monday night. They got overmatched. I think they're not that bad. I think they come out to win the game.
All right, I like it.
Yeah. Next game I'm taking the Falcons minus 2.5. I probably said to myself I would never take the Falcons ever again every week of my entire life when they let me down against the spread. And somehow each week I come back to taking the Falcons. And my only justification for this is the Cardinals are just really bad. And I'm just kind of believing in my head that the Falcons can beat the Cardinals. And I'm just hoping that it's not by 2 points or 1 point.
Right.
That's my justification. I think the Cardinals suck.
Right.
I think that the Falcons will be able to put up some points. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's just nothing complicated. Falcons are a better team than the Cardinals. The next game I really like, I like San Diego, Los Angeles Superchargers. Minus your 6.5 points. They have not been good. I get that. I just have a hard time in my head, minus 6.5 against the Steelers. In my head, this Duck Hodges, he's either going to be really good or he's going to be that practice squad quarterback that you saw before the season, and Mike Tomlin. So
don't you dare talk crap about Ducky Hodges on this podcast.
Believe me, there will be no one happier to see him do well than myself. I just think it's a tough spot for him. I think the Chargers need this win. Well, I know they need this win to stay alive. It's at home. He's going on the road. Sunday Night Football, big spot.
It is Duck Hodges, man. I can't wait for this game.
Rivers, Melvin Gordon will be on a little bit of a better page. Being in camp for now 2 weeks, whatever it is, I think they win by a touchdown. My last one, my very, very, very last pick, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers minus 4. As I said, I thought they were better than the Lions. I don't think the Lions are that great. This might be my favorite play of the whole week, to be really honest with you. It's just Lambeau's a tough place to play. The Detroit Lions have not done it with Matthew Stafford too consistently, if ever, really. While Rodgers has been healthy. I mean, it just is what it is. 4 points, I'm taking. I'll lay the 4, and I think that's a good win.
All right, Dave, I'm going to sell you on my 5 picks now.
Let's go.
You've labored. You've done a pretty good job. You got through the 5 picks, and I'm going to go ahead and give you my 5 right now.
All right.
I'm taking the Miami Dolphins to beat the Washington Redskins outright. The Miami Dolphins played really well against the LA Chargers. Josh Rosen, they're off of a bye week. Josh Rosen has all the motivation in the world to get Tua Tagovailoa the heck out of Miami. And it's possible if the Dolphins win this game and the Bengals continue to lose, the Dolphins have some winnable games on the schedule. This is absolutely huge for Josh Rosen and the Dolphins. Their defense is playing a lot better under Brian Flores. Again, they're coming off of a bye week. Washington just fired their coach. Their franchise is in complete disarray. Callahan hasn't coached a game in a long, long time. Dolphins, and you get 3.5. They'll probably win the game outright.
Quick question, Spencer. I agree with you on your Dolphins pick, but they played really well against the Chargers. They lost by 20, and the defense has been better. 59.
It was a 10-point first half.
I can keep on going. So I agree with the.
I gotta be strong in these picks. I'm trying to sell people on my picks, not just make the picks, but sell people. This is one of my favorite picks. You have the Tennessee Titans, and the Tennessee Titans with Marcus Mariota, they can't protect him at all. He's a walking sack. He's been living in the fetal position for this entire season. He has a noodle arm. He's terrible. The Denver Broncos just played their best defensive game, and they finally won a game on the road at the Chargers. Mike Vrabel is on the hot seat. His special teams kicker is terrible. The Titans just lost a very physical and depressing game at home to Buffalo. Now they have to head to the altitude in Denver, and I'm taking Denver. For some reason, this line is going against me. It opened at 3. It's now down to 1.5. I have a feeling I could get bamboozled, just like the Gardner Minshew game. I keep betting on Denver all the time, but I'm going to take the Broncos here, minus 1.5 over the Tennessee Titans. I think that Denver's defense finally steps up, sacks Mariota. Flacco's playing his best football. Phillip Lindsay, Cortland Sutton. You still have Von Miller. He ain't getting traded. Denver wins this game. What do you think?
Like the pick. Next one.
Like the pick, exactly. I'm going to go opposite of you. I'll take the Cardinals at home. The Cardinals just beat the Bengals. Atlanta had a disaster game against the Texans. Atlanta's defense is absolutely awful. They're the worst defense in football. Deshaun Watson lit them up for 55. Mariota lights them up. Jacoby Brissett. Everybody lights up everybody lights up the Falcons defense, and the Cardinals are playing their best football of the entire year. So I'll go opposite of you. I'll take the Arizona Cardinals. Then let's see. I'm going to take Carolina in London. I'm going to take the 2.5 with Carolina. And then I am also going to actually take the Kansas City Chiefs. I like that pick as well because this game's going to be a shootout. Kansas City is angry after losing their game against the Colts. I don't like Bill O'Brien as a coach. I don't like that Texans defense that much. The Texans are inconsistent. The Chiefs are an elite team. At Arrowhead Stadium, -4 is easy money to the bank. So those are my 5 picks for the NFL.
There you go.
All righty, here we go. So let's talk about college football, Dave. So the biggest games of college football, we got a great nightcap. We have LSU and Florida, and we talked about this game yesterday. This is really Joe Burrow's toughest test, playing this Todd Grantham defense with Jabari Zuniga, with some guys on Florida's defensive line. Why don't you preview the game, LSU hosting the Florida Gators this week down on the Bayou?
One thing that they always say down the Bayou, going to school in Louisiana, not LSU, but some school in Louisiana, Death Valley at night is where dreams come to die. And, Florida, I think that they've had a great season. It's admirable without Felipe Franks and this Kyle Trask kid who is not as good as Felipe Franks, no matter what anyone wants to try to make themselves believe recently. Everyone's best friend is the backup quarterback. You don't know what you have until it's gone with Felipe, who's inconsistent at best, but a little bit better than this kid. Florida, the defense is elite. Running game is elite. Great emotional win last week against Auburn, who, they kind of exposed a few flaws in Auburn's system as far as Bo Nix not being able to handle the blitz, and there's blitz all game. Dan Mullen is a double-digit underdog. He covers these games like crazy. I see this LSU team. I know a lot of people in Vegas are all over LSU this week. That's that 13.5-point number. I see this game being won by LSU. I think they win it by 7 to 10 points. I see Florida covering. I know Spencer's going to disagree. I think Florida is going to try to ground and pound, take some air out of the clock. I do think that the defense for Florida is good enough to get some stops on this high-powered offense of LSU. LSU has not played against any secondary with nearly the talent, defensive front with nearly the talent that Florida has. To me, this is really Joe Burrow's first real game that he's really played this year as far as going to be tested against the defense. And that's where I'm going to be interested to see. He may come out and light the world on fire, and at that point I'll say Joe Burrow is a true Heisman candidate. Joe Burrow might be a true NFL guy, but until then, I'm still kind of skeptical as far as how good he's actually been compared to what you saw last year with Joe Burrow. But that being said, LSU does win this game. I don't expect them to cover, though.
Yeah, Dave, I am going to take here. I do believe Kyle Trask is better than Felipe Franks, actually. Now, I know Trask doesn't have the mobility, but Felipe Franks was a more highly touted recruit, and oftentimes that's why, the kids play. Kyle Trask has been really good in these last couple of games. I mean, I think they're very similar players. I don't think the gap is that steep between the two. Him going to Death Valley at night, I think LSU's defense is going to play really well, and Joe Burrow will put up enough offensive points. I just think LSU's defense, you could say that Texas dominated LSU's defense, but I don't think LSU is going to surrender a lot of rushing yards, and I don't think I trust the inexperience of Trask. I don't think I trust the Florida offense going in the Death Valley at night like you talk about. I could see 35-14. I could see LSU flat out roasting and crushing Florida, and I love the 13.5 number. They just have to win by a couple of touchdowns. So I do like LSU in this spot.
Yeah. My big thing is that I saw some crazy number on I think the Bear brought it up on one of his shows that he does with Stanford Steve. Teams that are favored by 13.5 points cover that game like 36% of the time. It's a trap number completely. So
right.
That's part of also my thinking that it's historically the teams that are favored by 14 go up to like 51% of the time compared to the 13.5 number. It's almost telling me that Vegas knows something about the game,
Yeah, it's a complete trap. It could be a complete trap. It could be a complete trap, and I could be going right into the trap. Well, Dave, I got to try to get my laptop charged up, man. So you want to bear with me for a couple more minutes here as I get the laptop charged?
I'll bear with you. No.
You'll bear with it?
I'll bear with you.
All right, thanks.
I'll bear with you.
All right, Dave, I'm back, man.
All right, sounds good, man.
No, I'm back on the show. I had to cut out the webcam, but it's been a fun show. Just getting the new technology set up and everything, and I'm ready to finish out our college football picks for the week.
All right. An interesting game to me, if you're talking about spreads. Next one for me would be Toledo. They're going to Bowling Green. They're laying 26.5 points. Last week was not my best week, but it's kind of the theory of these really bad teams, that are just, you're like, wow, that's a lot of points. Toledo's not that great of a team. Bowling Green, yeah. I watched Bowling Green last week against Notre Dame. The game would have been, if Notre Dame had cared at all, somewhere in the range of 80-0. It just, they show no ability to score anything on offense. Their defense, anyone can run through them. I think 26.5 points, 4 touchdowns in a MAC game where Toledo is playing for something, trying to win a MAC championship at 4-1. I think it's a low number a little bit. I think at 28.5 would be a fair number. I just think Bowling Green's terrible, and I like Toledo in this matchup. Spencer, you go to your next pick.
All right, so I like in the opening in the opening part of the day, I am going to take the Tennessee, definitely plus 6.5. I think they have a great opportunity to win. I don't know why Mississippi State would be favored against anybody. Tommy Stevens hasn't been very good. Garrett Schrader, I don't see anything in him, especially this young in his career. Going to Knoxville, it's a home game for Tennessee. It's desperation time for Jeremy Pruitt. So I am going to take Tennessee. I think Tennessee can easily win that game. And then since we got 10 picks on the board, I'm going to roll with Maryland and go against Purdue. Going against Purdue has been pretty good. If you go against Purdue, Sindelar is out. It's Jack Plummer, and we know how Jack Plummer fared last week. Maryland's 3.5-point favorite on the road in West Lafayette. It is a noon game, but I think Maryland has too much firepower for the Boilermakers.
Spencer, you took my pick out of my mouth. I think that these Purdue Boilermakers, they are just a bad team. I think Maryland, what have they proven this year? That they're able to beat the bad ones, and they're not, some of the better teams are going to struggle against. Well, Purdue falls into that bad mold. Loxley will get, Justin Jackson on track. The McFarland kid is a decent running back. They'll be able to score enough points. I think 3.5. Yeah, I'll lay the 3.5 and take Maryland. That was one of my favorite plays the whole weekend.
Yeah, all right. Let's do 2 plays for you right here.
Okay, I'll give you 2. Give you 2 more. We won't count Maryland on my total, even because I want to be unique and give some other picks. I think Central Michigan. I'll go off the beaten path with some of mine. Central Michigan against New Mexico State. New Mexico State kind of held close against Liberty last week. Liberty did cover it. It's minus 10.5. New Mexico State's another one of these 0-6 terrible teams. Central Michigan's kind of one of these, up and down MAC teams. You know how MAC football goes. It's 1 week you're great, 1 week you're terrible. Central Michigan did have a game where they went down to Miami and they were close with them for most of the game. I think they lost by 5 points. I think any team that can play Miami to like a 5-point game can win at home against New Mexico State. Homecoming game also. They knew that they were going to win this game against New Mexico State. You never schedule your homecoming unless you know you're going to win the game. I'm taking the 10.5 points. There's going to be a little extra motivation with the homecoming. These guys.
The disrespect for New Mexico State here for the Aggies, for Paul Weir's old school.
Yeah, so there's a little extra motivation for these Chippewas of Central Michigan. Antonio Brown might be in the crowd. That's just a rumor. So
he might get student tickets.
Remember, it's his homecoming game. Antonio Brown's a student right now, so he may be getting, crunk with the students after the game. He may be in the student section. So,
but did he get done his English homework?
if he hasn't done his English homework, his mom's not letting him out. But yeah,
that's the thing. You got to do your homework before you can go have fun with your friends, Antonio. And the fact is, Antonio Brown should be old enough to drink, but if he's living in the freshman dorms, he shouldn't get caught with his RA drinking beer. Shouldn't get caught with an RA.
No, he should. He should not, what's it called?
But that will be awesome to see Antonio Brown in the student section there. But he'll just be another college student, and that's who Antonio Brown is. Speaking of a lot of college students, let's go to the cadets in Alabama and Texas A&M. One of the weirdest fan bases in all of college football is the Texas A&M fan base. Texas A&M has been very underwhelming this year. 17 points. Tua Tagovailoa is going to light up Texas A&M, and Texas A&M cannot run the football. They're missing Travion Williams. They're missing the guy McCoy, who was their center, Eric McCoy, who's now on the New Orleans Saints. This Jimbo Fisher offense is very one-dimensional with Kellen Mond. They do have good receivers, but Alabama's defense and Raekwon Davis, I expect him to finally play well. Terrell Lewis, I think Alabama's defense plays really solid, and in fact, you could argue South Carolina was even a better team than Texas A&M. I think Alabama wins this game comfortably. You go with Tua and you go with the Tide minus 17 in College Station, Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone who's going to advocate for you to take Texas A&M in this situation ever. I agree. I'll agree with the pick. I won't count it as my pick. It's one of the games I had on my board also.
I'm taking all your board picks. How about I'm ready to fire up this next one, and I'm feeling great about it. It's in the Pac-12. I'm feeling really good about this slate. Washington State is not a physical team. Washington State got mauled by Utah a couple of weeks ago. I believe Arizona State's defense is for real. It's basically a pick-'em game. I'm seeing a -1 number for Arizona State. Boy, oh boy, does that look really nice. The Sun Devils roll over the Washington State. Their defense plays well. Jaden Daniels is getting even better. Washington State does not do well with physicality. Neither does Anthony Gordon. So I'm going to take the Sun Devils.
Let's go a little bit, we'll talk about the Arizona State team real quick. The one thing that's really, impressed me is that, similar to a John Gruden in the NFL, when Arizona State went out and hired Herm Edwards, you did not hear one pundit, other than maybe the ESPN guys who didn't want to offend their friend Herm Edwards, say this was a good hire. This has turned out to be a home run hire for Arizona State. This team is physical, both sides of the ball. They run the ball. Jaden Daniels is, week by week getting a little bit better. I think this Arizona State team, in a couple of years, you're looking at a top 10 type of a team. I mean, you look at their coaching staff, it's just all NFL guys. Kevin Mawai is their offensive line coach. I mean, you watch their game. I can't remember all their coaches, but you watch their games and you're just like, geez, these are all NFL guys. And I think this is a great pick by you. It's a physical team. I think a team that will be on the national scene in another year probably. Just you need a little more recruiting, a little more seasoning, but I cannot say how great of a job Herm Edwards has done with this program. Just kind of turned the whole culture around. It's a great job.
Yeah, and you know what? You shouldn't forget those national media that just make fun of the old guys. They make fun of Mac Brown. They make fun of Herm Edwards. They say, Arizona State is hiring Herm Edwards. There were all those jokes about how Herm Edwards didn't recognize the uniforms. Remember when there were those tight uniforms and he didn't recognize it. So I'm really happy for Arizona State and Herm Edwards. And those people are not going to admit that they're wrong. And it's kind of sad. And he got bullied completely. So that was a great point by you.
It's one of those things I wanted to get in there. So we'll get to the next pick. I'm gonna take go off the beaten path. Are going to be all my picks. So all Spencer's picks may be major college games. I'm giving you all games you're not going to think about.
You're giving us games that you can't even see on television.
These games at CBS Sports Network at 3:30. I'm taking the USF Bulls, who are not a good football team, but they're playing BYU, plus the 5 points for USF at home. BYU is starting their first African-American quarterback ever. This has become a huge story this week. That being said, I don't think that this kid is ready to play just yet. And it has nothing to do with that. It's just a backup quarterback. Zach Wilson is not going to be there. I think for a guy who's attempted 7 passes in his college career, 4 for 7, and, very inexperienced, I see this as a tough spot for someone going down to Tampa and trying to win a game by, basically a touchdown. I see it as a tough spot. USF is not great. They've gotten blown out by some teams. I think BYU is one of these very predictable type of offenses. I see this being a real slugfest. Charlie Strong and them keep it close. Even if BYU wins by field goal, you're going to win the game. Plus the 5 points.
Wow, the kid's name is Jaron Hall. I'm going to watch this game now because this is a wonderful story. And is this kid a freshman?
I don't know what he exactly is or isn't, but, he just has not played. And I know that in college football, it is tough to be the backup quarterback that hasn't played. Because a lot of times these backup quarterbacks, they come in, but, they've seen a couple series here and there, and, it's not completely foreign. This kid literally has not played. He's thrown 7 passes in his career. I see this as a tough spot. I truly, truly do.
Yeah, but USF, they even got beat, I think, by Georgia Tech, and Wisconsin rolled over them. But it's a very interesting pick by you.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's 5. I think to win a game by a touchdown, I think they're going to be very conservative. I think they're going to be running the ball a lot,
Let's keep it rolling, man.
That's what it is. You give me your next pick.
All right, so I'll do. We're gonna do about maybe 3 or 4 more picks. I am going to take Iowa State on the road at West Virginia. Maybe I took another one of your picks. West Virginia, very physical game with Texas, emotional. They lose. Iowa State got done with TCU in the rainstorm at 3:30, and they got to relax. Iowa State is hitting their stride now. I know that you address Iowa State lines for your big super contest. I'm going to take Iowa State here, -10. They do have to cover the 10, but West Virginia is not a good football team. Brock Purdy's going to turn up, so take the Clones. I like the Cyclones here.
Okay, my next pick, I don't disagree with you on that one. My next pick, once again, Pat, I hope you have ESPN Plus if you want to watch this game. Charlotte plus the 5.5 against FIU. I forget who the coach of Charlotte is. Up-tempo offense.
It's Will Healy. Will Healy, he was the former coach of the Austin P. He kind of looks like Tom Cruise. He's 30 years old. Charlotte 40. Do you know who I'm talking about now?
I know exactly. I don't know his name. I know exactly who you're talking about. I've watched Charlotte football 3 times this year. They don't really have a quarterback. That's the sad part. I think it's a dual kind of quarterback. I mean, tell us a little bit about Charlotte, because Will Healy, it is a fun team, but I'm interested to hear this pick, actually, because I think Will Healy could be a rising star, but let's hear this pick. Well, here's some of the rationale behind it. The last 3 years that Charlotte and FIU have played, FIU has won all 3 of these games by a combined 9 points. FIU this year is down. I gave FIU as a pick last week as -27 against Massachusetts. They covered. They kind of have this thing in Charlotte with this quarterback Chris Reynolds. A little bit of a dual threat guy. He's got 3 touchdowns, 10 passing this year. They run up tempo. They run a bunch of guys at you. So the heat shouldn't really affect them down in Florida. I think this team is kind of an up-and-coming type of program. They recruit from a very good base in North Carolina, in that Tennessee, Georgia mold. So they have a decent recruiting base, kind of those kids that slip through that SEC crack a little bit. This coach is going to be a fast riser. I really believe it. I think you'll see him in these Power Fives within the next 5 to 7 years. This is just my personal opinion. And, I just don't think FIU is that good. I think it will be a close game. You should see a lot of points being scored in this one, both ways. Good quarterback play on both sides. And, the 5.5 is just what I'm going to stick by.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the quarterback play of FIU because James Morgan, 6'4" out of Wisconsin. He went to Bowling Green. He then transferred. He's one of my favorite kids to watch. Now, he is a pocket passer, but I know that you've watched some FIU football, which it's rare to speak to somebody that's watched the FIU football team. But don't you think that James Morgan, when given time, has a lot of talent?
I completely agree with that. You won't hear me argue. I think James Morgan, if you told me, I'm not going to sell you James Morgan, the starting quarterback in the NFL. If you told me in 2 years that nowhere James Morgan went to an NFL team and this is one of these guys who no one saw this coming from anywhere, like a completely out of left field guy, I won't be shocked because the guy is all 6'4". He's a pocket passer. He looks the type, maybe he looks more of that 2002, 2000 type where that's where you kind of saw it get drafted. He has the arm talent. So
he does have a quick release, though, and I think he'll be undrafted, but how great would it be, Dave, if he made it?
Undrafted. But, what I'm saying is it wouldn't shock me to see this guy make a team, be a backup at some point. I don't see him as a drafted guy, but if you get where I'm going with him is that he definitely looks the part,
No, he's a big-time talent. He's a big-time talent indeed. Do you have other picks? Because I'll finish with my last two picks. I'm feeling there's a lot of good college lines out there.
I've got one more off the beaten path pick, and then I'm going to say I'm taking Tulsa plus 1 point at home against Navy. Navy has, they had an emotional win last week. I'm going against the armed forces this time.
Navy burned you, right?
Navy burned me against the Air Force, scored a touchdown late, and then a little pitchy woo-woo, and they ended up looking like a blowout. It really wasn't. I think Tulsa looked really good last week against SMU. That running game got going. They blew a big lead. But, sometimes you blow a big lead and you can say, well, there's going to be a letdown afterwards. I mean, the offense looked really good, though, Spencer. The offense looked like it was hard to stop. Their quarterback, Zach Smith, was putting the ball all over the place. Receivers look good. Running back look good. I see this as a tough spot for Navy. You have to go to Tulsa, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's going to be a long travel for sure. I mean, I've been on these travels in Division I sports. I'm sure that, Navy, they're getting on the plane. They fly probably to Atlanta or Dallas, and then they got to get on a connecting flight,
Yep, but old DFW, right? Not Love Field.
It's
ain't no Love Field for Navy, and they're going to be flying on like whatever but they probably have the military plane though, so it's probably unbelievable.
No, they probably don't fly. I'm pretty sure from what I know about the Navy sports programs that they do not fly on charter flights. Having friends within the athletic department on the basketball side, they don't fly charter flights. So it's going to be a connecting. There's going to be a lot of travel.
Wow.
It was either last night or today.
Headed to the Dust Bowl in Tulsa.
Yeah, it's a long trip. Everything that goes along with it. Malcolm Perry has still been a little bit banged up. Even last week, he took a ton of hits. I think last week was an emotional game for them, beating Air Force late. Plus 1 point. Tulsa's looked better as of late. I'm going to take Tulsa.
Tulsa's getting one?
Tulsa's getting 1 point.
Wow, I think that could be a gem. I'm going to end it with another pick that I'm actually really confident in, and there's a team that is quietly a covering machine. This is a team that had a brutal week 1 game, but every other game I think that the Missouri Tigers have covered. And I think that their offenses look spectacular. Ole Miss, they did have a nice win over Vanderbilt. Plumlee can run around a little bit, but guess what? Missouri is a very physical team. The line is minus, what am I getting right here? Minus like 12.5, at some places minus 12. I think Missouri wins the game going away, so I love Missouri again over Ole Miss at home.
The only thing that scares me is just to warn the fans. I wouldn't take this game too far in advance before, read the tweets up to 30 minutes before the game. Kelly Bryant has been questionable all week, and there are some rumors that he may not play. So, he's supposed to play. just be sure before you lock that one in.
How about this one? Would you never – here's a game that I've been laboring on. Would you bet a Penn State team going to Carver, going to Iowa City, or would you stay away from games at Iowa completely because you've been scarred in the past?
I mean, I've seen a lot of the FBI projections, a lot of the computer projections that are picking this as like the score projections really have Iowa minus 0.3 points. So it's really a pick 'em with a slight edge to Iowa on computer projections. And you can say, well, what do these computers know? They know a lot. So basically this game has been 65% of the action has gone to Penn State. So that's probably where you're seeing that 3.5 number really. It's probably more in the betting public.
No, because Penn State looks awesome, and they've blown out everybody so far. Like, they've been incredible this year.
I agree. It would be hard for me to take this game when I've seen what the computer projection and discrepancy this much, even though my heart would tell me, my eyes tell me Penn State.
Heart and eyes tell you Penn State, and Nate Stanley last week told you Penn State.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't even think that tells me Penn State. What that tells me is that he's not going on the road, but at home, it's a whole different. Iowa's the classic example of the LSU theory. A lot of good teams go into Iowa, and they don't come out alive. I mean, that's kind of the way it's been over the last years. Those Michigan teams where Harbaugh's lost a big game, you lose to Iowa, it's a tough place to play. 3.5 points. It's going to be an ugly game. And personally, who has Penn State played that's any good?
Well, Penn State played Pittsburgh, who's pretty good. They played Maryland.
They played Maryland, Pittsburgh. Yeah, so they haven't played anyone
Buffalo.
I think that Penn State, the thing about that, I do think that they cover. I'm not going to bet the game.
Yeah.
The thing that I think that separates them, it's not this offense that looks like it's scoring a lot of points. This D-line is something else. It's a really good, really, really, really good D-line. They rotate 7-8 guys in there, and they get after that quarterback so much. I don't know that Iowa's going to be able to handle it. Iowa really runs that ball well, so it's going to be kind of like a power versus power. Your two strengths are going to be colliding, and it'll be interesting. I won't take too much into the Iowa game last week. I think the Big House, I think Michigan's a better team than people have been giving them credit for. I think that they had a bad start. This is my opinion. I think Michigan will kind of right the ship to a certain extent. Not going to beat Ohio State or anything like that, but they'll right it to a certain extent. And, that'll be what it'll be. My bonus pick for you, I think, even though they've looked, kind of Jekyll and Hyde a little bit, I think Washington, Pac-12 or FS1 after dark, minus 5.5, minus 6, whatever you're getting it at right now. I think that they do beat Arizona. I'm not
really even though Arizona just beat Colorado and didn't Washington just lost again.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. I think the difference is Washington lost. I would agree with that. But what's the difference between the games that they've won and they've lost? They lost to two teams that Cal, a real physical, grinded out type of a game. They lost that game, all right? They can never really get into an offensive rhythm at like 6 o'clock in the morning over there. And then same thing with Stanford. It's a real grinded out physical type of a game. Defense is physical, that type of a deal. I mean, Arizona doesn't have that physicality to them that I think is necessary to beat a Washington, if that makes sense. The game, Arizona's going to be playing more up-tempo. I think last week, if you watched the Washington game, they were kind of taken out of their tempo because David Shaw was taking the play clock down to maybe like 1 second every time. And, Washington was getting, kind of antsy on offense, trying to hit big play after big play in early downs. I just see this as a bad spot for Arizona all around in general.
Yeah, let's wrap it up by going rapid fire here. And we've put in our picks already. Do you believe that Baylor is going to crush Texas Tech, even though Texas Tech had a good week? The game is at Baylor. Do you think Baylor's going to keep rolling?
Let's put it this way. We're not picking the game for the spread. I'm going to tell you right now, Baylor's going to win this game either way. I don't know if it's crush or not. I think that the one thing about Texas Tech that it does seem like, even though last week they had a good week, right? They are right now kind of in that purgatory of, Wells wants to get this team to where it's a defensive team. The defense has gotten a little bit better. Offense was the first time last week, and now I think the Jet Duffy is better than Bowman. That really showed up. I don't think that they're going to beat Baylor. I really just don't.
Yeah, I even think Buchanan could be special. We'll see if he's playing this week.
I think this Baylor team really, really could surprise a Texas or Oklahoma when all is said and done.
Yeah, in the last game, we haven't even talked about it. Is Texas going to be in this game against Oklahoma? Because Oklahoma hasn't been challenged all year.
I think Texas will be in the game. I think, history would tell you Tom Herman as an underdog, they'll be in the game. The last 5 years, Texas has covered this game. I'm not quite as confident this year because of all the secondary injuries, but, Sam Ehlinger, offense is a machine. They'll have Colin Johnson back. They didn't have him last week, even though they've still won. They put up a ton of points. This is honestly, it's going to tell me a lot more about Oklahoma because, Oklahoma, you want to make the college football playoff. Well, sure, you got to kind of look at this as not only do we have to win this game, but sure, we might have to blow this thing out, because the way LSU has looked, and if you think about it, Alabama, if the Alabama-LSU game is close and Alabama beats them in a close game, LSU is not going to have to play that SEC championship. And if they only go with one loss and they've looked really good, say they do cover like you've picked them to cover this week, right? And they have just looked really good, Oklahoma could be that team that, hey, we were undefeated, but, we didn't look that great against Texas. So I think they have to blow out Texas to really keep their college football playoff hopes completely intact, because the last 2 years they have not looked good, necessarily in the college football playoff. Actually, 2 of the 3 years, 2 years ago they looked decent, but 2 of their 3 appearances, they've gotten waxed and kind of blown off the field. So I think it's a huge game for them. I think Texas does keep it close. I would expect Texas to cover, though.
Dave, it's been a pleasure. It's been a ton of fun. I want to thank everybody who's stuck with us. It's been a rocky podcast on a Friday night. It's gotten quite wild here at the Grossinger household for Rover Sports, and but Dave, it's been a lot of fun, and we got through the picks. And thank you again for joining the show.
So don't get in trouble with the high school girls.
I will not. I'll stay above board.
Thanks.
You got to do this for the podcast, but also I'm not about that life. I'm going to go to, what am I going to do? I'm going to leave the house. How about that? I might see a movie tonight and just do adult stuff, mature stuff.
All right. Sounds good.
Might go get some beers and might go try to get a night. I don't know if it might be a fun night. Who knows? Maybe it's Friday night. It's fall. Put on some jeans, have some fun, see the heck what happens. But, Dave, it's been fun. I think our picks are going to do quite well tomorrow, man. And we'll be texting and talking a lot. So thank you, Dave, for joining the show.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Hello? How's it going there, guys? Welcome into Rover Sports. It looks like I might be a 1 second lagging here on the feed. Now we're up to date and now we're doing quite well. Got the new microphone rolling, and